Hey guys, what's going on? So today I'm coming at you with episode 9 of season 1 of Game of Thrones. Obviously been loving the series so far. As you saw in my last episode, the last episode was my favorite. So I'm only expecting more from here on out. The show seems to ramp up every episode, not in excitement necessarily, but in quality. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see the conclusion get wrapped up here in these last 2 episodes. So we're not going to waste much time, but just a quick reminder if you're used to some of the older videos, we are going to have a little bit longer of a conclusion here, a little bit more in-depth. It was suggested by one of my commenters and subscribers, Jon Snow. I know, pretty big deal. I say it every time. Jon Snow subscribes to me. Crazy. Anyways, so we're going to be doing that. It ends up being pretty long because I end up having quite a bit of notes and quite a bit to talk about, so these videos are going to be long from now on just because of that conclusion. Let me know if you'd rather have that in a separate video or how you'd like me to do it. Either way works for me. I just want it to be convenient for you. So, without further ado, guys, let's get into the episode.
This is Valyrian steel.
It's my father's sword. His father before him. The Mormonts have carried it for 5 centuries. It was meant for my son, Jorah. He brought dishonor to our house, but he had the grace to leave the sword before he fled from Westeros.
My lord, you honor me, but I can't.
Oh, you can. And you will. I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for you and your beast. Bloody dead man tried to kill me. So you'll take it. You know more about it. Understood?
Yes, my lord.
I don't think this means I approve of this nonsense with you and Alistair Thorne. That's a man's sword. Take a man.
And when the fighting is done, you will marry one of his daughters. Whichever you prefer. He has a number he thinks will be suitable.
I see. Did you get a look at his daughters?
I did.
And?
One was... Do you consent?
And the children, even the little children.
Who are you?
My father was Micah, the first of his name. My brother Eddard reigned after him when I had refused the throne, and he was followed by his son Aerys, whom they called the Mad King.
You're Aemon Targaryen.
I'm a master of the Citadel, bound in service to Castle Black and the Night's Watch.
There is a spell.
This issue is cursed.
They'll come or I'll have their heads.
The witch, she can bring baby. I hear her say so.
Wow.
By the
Holy
time you knew what was
shit!
happening, it had already happened.
Rob! You're a beast, dude.
Lady Stark, I'd offer you my sword, but I seem to have lost it.
It is not your sword I want. Give me my daughters back. Give me my
That's
husband.
huge.
I've lost them too, I'm afraid.
Kill him, Rob. Send his head to his father.
Do it.
He cut down 10 of our men. You saw
Do
him.
it. Kill him.
He's more used to us alive than dead.
Take him away and put him in irons.
We could end this war
She's
right,
right.
now, boy.
That's right.
Save thousands of lives. You fight for the Starks, I fight for the Lannisters. Swords to lances, teeth, nails, choose your weapons. And let's end this here and now.
If we do it your way, Kingslayer, you'd win.
You know his. Good job, Rob.
We're not doing it your way.
What a shot.
Baylor! I am Eddard Stark, Lord of Winterfell, and Hand of the King. I come before you to confess my treason in the sight of gods and men. I betrayed the faith of my king and the trust of my friend Robert. I swore to protect and defend his children, but before his blood was cold, I plotted to murder his son and seize the throne for myself. Let the High Septon and Baelor the Blessed bear witness to what I say. Joffrey Baratheon is the one true heir to the Iron Throne. By the grace of all the gods, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms, and Protector of the Realm.
As we sin, so do we suffer. This man has confessed his crimes in sight of gods and men. The gods are just, but beloved Baelor taught us they can also be merciful. What is to be done with this traitor, Your Grace?
My mother wishes me to let Lord Eddard join the Night's Watch. Stripped of all titles and powers, he would serve the realm in permanent exile. And my lady Sansa has begged mercy for her father. But they have the soft hearts of women. So long as I am your king, treason shall never go unpunished.
Fuck you, dude.
Sir Ilyn, bring me his head.
Oh my god. What the fuck? Oh, what an emotional roller coaster the last 5 minutes of that episode was. I mean, we get to see one of the, I think the main character of the show, it's kind of hard to pick a main character, die. I'm really speechless. It's not something I expected to happen, and even as the moments were leading up to it happening, I still didn't think it was going to happen, even though it was quite obvious, his impending doom. But I'll get more into that in just a second here. But I just want to talk about the format of the videos. For those of you who don't know, the first thing I'm going to do is going to give my general feel of the episode, what I thought about it, just the basics, what I usually do. I'll shorten that up a little bit, and if that's all you're here for, fine. Great, but I'm also going to be going in-depth to the episode after that, which is going to be a little bit longer. So if you want to stick around to see my in-depth, almost review or thoughts about the episode, go ahead and stick around for that. I've been taking notes during the episode just to pick up on things that maybe sometimes you'd miss, just try to be even more attention to detail than I normally am. So that out of the way, I don't want to spend too much time on it. I'm just going to get into my general feel of the episode. So episode 9, it came in a big spot because we had episode 7 that ended on the cliffhanger of Ned getting captured, and then episode 8 did a really good job of slowing down the pace, but it's still ramping you up for what's about to happen in the conclusion of the season. This one, it could have went both ways. It could have continued the slower pace and it would have worked, or it could have went the way it did. And I mean, the pace wasn't necessarily fast until the end, but it really ramped up quickly with probably the most emotional scene of the entire season. Series so far, for me anyways, just ridiculous episode. Along with just the end scene of Ned getting executed, which was great, very well done. The directing was phenomenal. You also got to point out some of the character development that happened, like with Tyrion and Daenerys with the Dothrakis. Just a bunch of stuff happened in this episode that I really appreciated. And the episode's not good just because of that Ned Stark execution moment. Sure, it's great, and sure, it's going to be a moment that's going to be remembered throughout the entire series, but that's not the only thing this episode does well. And that's why I think it's a really well-made episode, and as far as an emotional effect on me, definitely the number one episode in the season. It seems like they keep getting better and better, so happy to see that this season's trending up, or the series is trending up. But that's going to be everything for my general review. Next, we're going to be going pretty in-depth. So we're going to get into it fast here because I got a lot of stuff to talk about. First thing I'm talking about is Varys. Super mysterious character, the most mysterious character in the entire series. Don't really know much about him, but we find out something big about his character today. He's motivated by peace. He talks to Ned and he's like, you gotta swallow your pride. You gotta stop this war from happening. He wants peace. He fights for the realm, as he said in the last episode. So that's a big character key we learn about him, and I'm interested to learn more about him as well. And yeah, it's just a really interesting key there, and every information I get about him, I'm going to write down and I'm going to note because we don't get much about him. The next thing we're going to talk about is quite a big one and a really good narrative device. So Ned, we see at the beginning, is torn between protecting his family and honor, protecting his own honor, similar to like the John Proctor thing in the Crucible. If we're relating it to something, you gotta protect your name. Well, the reason he's faced with this is he's talking, he's like, hey, to Varys, he's like, I already know how to die, I fought with soldiers, blah blah blah, and he's like, he's prepared to die for his honor, and that's all good until Varys mentions his family, his daughters, and then he turns and like, how do you pick that, right? So that's tough. He was faced with that, but then that's not where the theme stops. If we go deeper on into the episode, not very deep, when we meet Baelor Targaryen, when we found out that's who it is, he's talking to Jon Snow, and he draws parallels to this scene, not as obviously as some other parallels, but I picked up on it. Love is the death of duty, is a quote he says. So Ned may know what he has to do for himself, but his love for his family is going to stop him. Is that a bad thing? No, it's not. But I mean, ultimately, any decision you make is going to come with consequences. You just got to balance them out, good or bad. And it turned out for Ned's case that it really didn't pay off. Maybe it did. Maybe who knows? But we'll get into that later. But anyways, I thought that was a really interesting parallel. And I think Jon Snow's going to have to make a decision similar to that to go help out his family in the war or stay with the Knights. And I think seeing Ned's decision and what he did and the negative effects of it and the positive effects of it is going to help us relate to Jon when he finally has to make that decision, if that makes any sense. But could be completely off there, but it really seems like they're trying to draw a parallel. Continuing on with Jon Snow, I just wanted to note that Jon Snow, his motivations as far as the audience, I think, always seem good. Like, he always seems like he has good motivations. So you might be thinking, well, where's his room to grow? Plenty of room to grow, and it's kind of different or harder to see if you're not paying attention. He's growing emotionally. Because his motivations are good, he just needs to learn how to hone his emotions and just be a little bit more mature in that sense. And he keeps growing every episode we see him in through that. So that's interesting to point out that Jon Snow is definitely not a static character so far. He is changing. It just takes a little bit to see it. So now we're going to talk about the Dothraki scenes. We get a couple of them here that are just really phenomenal scenes. So we see Daenerys. This is another character thing I'm noticing with her, is she's continuing to take more and more leadership over the Dothraki tribe, which is just truly amazing to think of when you think of how she was just controlled by her brother in the first episode. So it's another thing. This character has already changed dramatically in the first 9 episodes. Great to see that they're not just wasting a character. I think she's going to be around for a while to come, so I'm not surprised at how well they're developing her. Of course, the big Dothraki scenes, the witchcraft, absolutely crazy. Khal Drogo looks to be on his deathbed, and Daenerys, she can't take that. She's in love with this man, and she turns to witchcraft as her last resort. And there was an interesting quote said by the witch that said something similar to, I might be paraphrasing here, is death would be a better option to some. So I'm thinking, I think Khal Drogo survives this. I think the witchcraft does something, but there's going to be some sort of consequence that could somehow be worse than death, which, I mean, who knows? I'm just kind of curious to see what that is, but it's a quote I noted just because it's going to have some implications down in the future. Next topic we're going to talk on is going to be a fun time because it's one of my favorite characters, Tyrion. We get a lot of Tyrion backstory and information in this, a lot of character traits, a whole bunch of stuff about Tyrion. So let's jump into it. So Tyrion has this character trait that they've been kind of showing but not putting right in your face throughout the whole series so far, and that's that he knows how to read people. He's very good at reading people, and he's playing a game with that prostitute he's with, Shay and Bronn, I believe. And he's like, well, we'll play a guessing game. I'm going to say a fact about your past. If it's true, you have to drink. If not, I have to drink. So they're playing this game, and he does Bronn pretty well, reads him pretty well. It's pretty impressive. And then he goes to Shay, and he gets kind of stopped in his tracks because he's doing all these things like, oh, you have daddy issues, you had problems at home. And she's like, no, I did not. No, because I think he's stuck in all these preconceived notions about people just because of how people have treated him. And I think he's got this idea that all people are really the same. He can read through every person and whatever. But the fact that Shay answered differently than what he predicted puzzled him, confused him, and created a mystery, which I think is intriguing. And if you're ever intrigued in someone, I think that's a spark of a relationship. So I'm excited to see where Tyrion and Shay go on in the future. Really good scene. They didn't throw anything in your face. I could be off there, but I think they're trying to build some sort of connection. Just my opinion. So another thing, we kind of already know Tyrion is not the most beloved Lancaster, but Tywin, he puts him on the front lines of the battlefield. We really see he has no value for his son's life, whether that's because he caused the death of his mother. It has to be part of it, and maybe just because he's a dwarf. But the ultimate thing is it's over things he doesn't control, which is just really heartbreaking. And that being said, I have to add that his positive attitude, because of that, becomes super intriguing. There's not many personalities who, well, maybe not. There's a quote that says the most troubled people end up being the most glowing people on the outside. A lot of people said that about Robin Williams, that inside he had a lot of demons. And maybe that's just George R.R. Martin's writing, or the adaptive writings for the Game of Thrones script, being able to throw something like that into the script, which is really impressive. I could see that being the case, where it's like, yeah, the person with one of the most troubled past, not necessarily because he's still a Lannister, but person with the most troubled past in the Lannisters has the most positive attitude. Interesting aspect to look at, and I think it just adds a lot to Tyrion's character. Last thing I want to throw out, and I don't know if this has any bearing at all, but I just thought the scene where he's going out to war, pretty sure he's going to die, and he gets knocked out by the hammer and gets trampled by everyone. I think that was super symbolic, because he's a guy who's been walked over, looked over all his life, and sure, he's had to take the punishments of it, like having his face hit with the hammer and being stomped down into the dirt. That's punishment. But he also has his benefits, like being alive at the end of the battle, like being able to do things without people knowing that he's doing things. So that's just something I picked out. I don't know if that's right, but who knows? I just thought it was interesting. I thought it was a good point to bring up to you guys. Last thing I really want to bring up about specific things in the episode, or specific characters, specific scenes, whatever. Robb. So we see Robb's continued growth. He makes decisions that are very hard to make. Decisions that cause the deaths of probably people that he knew as friends, but he did it for the greater good. He killed 2,000 people. Yeah, that's a lot of people to kill, to save 18,000 people. It's a tough decision, but it's one that sometimes needs to be made, and he was able to do that. It shows growth. And Jaime Lannister, after they capture him, tries to go at the alpha male in him, right? Because all these people are telling him, I think Jaime Lannister knows this, like, oh, this kid doesn't, he's never done anything before this. All these people are telling him, like, hey, you don't know shit. And he's got something to prove. I think that's what Jaime Lannister saw in him, and he challenged him to a fight. Well, we all know who would have won that. Jaime would have won. Robb put down the alpha male inside him and made the right decision for his family and his group, and said, no, we're going to do this our way. So it's a good way to show your maturity and put your ego aside. So another growth scene for Robb, making good decisions, and he's really become one of my favorite characters. Alright, so now we're going to go to the highs and lows of the episode. I'm going to say this about every time. I don't have many lows. I'm a positive guy. I'm going to pick up mostly positives, and this one really all I have is positives. I didn't see any negatives in the episode. Pacing got a little fast towards the end, but not really, because it worked for the narrative. Anyways, so first of all, comic relief. There's not much in this show, but when it happens, it's really well done and not in your face. The Walder, I forget his last name, but he's a bridge guy. Catelyn has to come up with a deal with him and basically promises that Robb will marry one of his daughters, Arya will marry one of his sons, onward and onward. And there's just a scene where Robb's like, well, did you look at any of them? And she's like, well, yeah, one of them was, yeah, fine. Yeah. Just a really good use of comic relief there, breaks the tension, and such a tension-filled series. Thought it was used really well, wasn't cheap to me, so that was good. I always like to call out things that they do different in the series that actually have upside. Oh yeah, so we saw some examples of phenomenal directing in this episode, just like we see in every episode, but some of the specific shots or scenes I want to mention is when Jon's going to speak with old Baelor Lannister. We don't know that yet. They have a shot of him through this raven's cage, and man, it is, I'll try to show it on the screen for you if I have time to. If I have time left in the fair use meter, that is. But man, it is just a beautiful, beautiful shot. Along with that, when Tyrion gets knocked out and he awakes from the battle, we get this beautiful shot from like a point of view. He's upside down, laying on his back, We see the murder that's going around, like warlike scenes, man, and it is in your face. It is great, and it's telling a story. You feel like you're in Tyrion's shoes for a little bit, and that is. I can't say how great that is. It's you don't see that every day in movies, let alone TV series. So just a spectacle to behold. And we'll talk about spectacles a little bit later after this as well, not too much later. So great job by everyone and the Game of Thrones cast for creating a mood, specifically in the witch scene. We haven't seen many horror themes referenced in the Game of Thrones, but they made a horror scene when it came to the witchcraft, with the slitting open of the horse's throat. It's witchcraft, it's blood, magic, and man, was it scary. I liked it. They did a great job of creating a mood and making me feel what I needed to feel to enjoy that scene. Phenomenal. So, last thing we're going to talk about is, of course, the elephant in the room. You're probably like, why haven't we talked about this yet? So the Ned scene, the Ned execution scene. How was it handled? When you kill off a character like Ned, there's characters like Ned in every show, popular characters that have big that have big connections into the narrative anyways. You have to handle it right. It can't be rushed. It can't be just for shock value, and it has to help move along the story. I'm sure you guys aren't surprised that this was not handled in any of those negative ways, and they really didn't rush it. We got 2 episodes with it kind of building up, and then this episode was kind of alluding to it a little more, and then the end is where it really ramps up. But it needed to. It needed to, just to tell the audience, like, hey, we mean business. It was handled super well. Ned was probably my favorite character, unfortunately. And I like the amount of respect they had for this death scene. It didn't seem cringy. It didn't seem forced. So I love that about it. Let's talk about the directing in this scene. And my, oh my, it just beautiful. You see the shot of Arya after she hears, oh, the king's hand's going to be taken out in front of everyone, and she's running through the streets. They got some good angles of her, and then she climbs up on top of that flag base thing, and you see the direct line of sight between Ned and Arya. A great moment right there. You see the crowds ranting and hollering and hooting, just making them look really disgusting. You see the Lannisters looking all pristine up there. It is the best example I've ever seen in TV of directorial storytelling. Because you see this picture and you know the story. You know what's happening. You don't need anyone to say anything. And you know all these people. You know what their intentions are. You know everything. And it's phenomenal. Just some of the best directing I've seen in a long time. Really respected it. And they needed good directing in the scene. They needed good everything in the scene to really give it the impact that it deserves. Big thing about this thing is, what does it mean for character development? First of all, Joffrey. We know he's a wild card now, as if we didn't know it before. We know he's a prick now, as if we didn't know it before. We know that he's going to do his own thing. He's not even going to listen to his mom, and he's definitely going to be a liability to everyone. Joffrey's a tough one to handle, and I honestly couldn't predict what he could possibly do going down the road. Next character talking about Ned. Ned does have some character development here. We see him come out, and he decides, if you go back to the first thing we talked about, honor over family or honor over love, he picks his love for his family over his honor. It bites him in the ass, and he realizes that. That's a little bit of character development. You realize he should have, maybe I should have saved my name. I think that's a little bit of character development there. Big character development is coming up here, and Arya. This is going to start a whole arc for Arya, because she already hates the Lannisters. Her dad was the closest person in the world to her. They're 2 peas in a pod. You don't do that and not expect anything. They also killed her. Forgive me, I forget his name, but her fighting instructor, who she had obviously grown a close bond with. But She's already went through a lot of trauma here. She's going to have a huge character arc coming up, and she's going to be turned into a major badass, I'm afraid. Last thing we're going to talk about is Sansa. And this is one I'm a little bit mystified about because she was so adamant in following Joffrey and becoming his princess. Well, basically everyone under the Lannisters is like, here's our mercy, we're going to let him go. And Joffrey's like, you know what? Middle finger to the world, kill that bitch. He did. And what's Sansa to do now? What side does she take? I personally believe she is not going to be with the Lannisters. I don't know how she's going to get out of it, but after killing her dad, she's done with Joffrey, I think. I think that's the end of that for her. Maybe she does stay involved with it and works as like a spy within the Lannisters. That'd be a pretty cool dynamic there. But who knows? But she's experienced a lot as a character, a lot of growth. She's had to grow up fast. I mean, you see your parent die by your fiance, pretty much your husband. Crazy. But anyways, guys, had a lot to cover there. I appreciate you guys listening. Any tips or advice for the videos? Really appreciate it. I love when you leave comments, leave me feedback. I always try to incorporate some things that you suggest into my videos. But anyways, guys, peace and love. I am out of here.
I've been busy working all night, and I'm telling everybody I'ma get it right. They know what I'm living like. I've been busy going